Creation of the Universe, Part 4. In Part 3, we saw that there could be a lot more than one universe, and that universes could develop from other universes. All these different universes and the budding universes together forms a multiverse. This multiverse is sort of like a foam of interconnected budding universes, and is completely symmetric overall with respect to time's arrow. Some of the universes move forward, and some move backward. With an infinite number of universes, there are no limits on the entropy or order. It can always increase. The Big Bang is just our own Big Bang and is not unique. Time overall never begins, because the multiverse has always existed and always will. It certainly may be evolving, but overall, it's always the same. Some of the universes increase in order, and some decrease it. It remains overall the same. We need the right amount of entropy or order in our universe for life to be able to form. It appears that our early universe had just the right amount of homogeneity to give it a slight variation in smoothness of the temperature differences of the hot gas cloud of the original creation to allow galaxies to form. These fluctuations have recently been mapped by the Wilkinson microwave Anisotropy probe, the WMAP. If things were initially smoother, then there had been no congealing of matter into galaxies, and if it were slightly less smooth, then most of the matter in the universe would have long ago concentrated into large black holes, and there would be no stars, no planets, and no life. So why am I leading you along this path of thought? What difference does it make? What do these scientific theories have to do with rational Mormonism? Well, as could be said, God is in the details. To find out why we need to exist and why God created us, we need to know something about where it all comes from. By answering some of these questions, we can find out what the truth is and why we are. The first thing we have to figure out is why the initial setup of the universe allows the cosmic timeline to have a direction. As we can see from the above discussions, there are an infinite number of ways our own universe could have been set up. Most of the possible outcomes have a high entropy starting state, which is a low amount of order. All the resulting high entropy universes would be inert. Nothing would happen. These universes could not produce galaxies and stars, and they would not produce planets, and certainly would not support life. We couldn't exist in such universes. Evolution and change would not have been possible in any way. Those kind of universes would not suit God's purpose. If you remember from earlier in this video, his purpose is to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man, and thereby increase God's glory, which is to say, to increase all his creations. This means additional universes that he can create to extend existence in general. And, according to latter-day revelations, we have the possibility of developing enough to help God by creating our own universes. We are a part of the grand cosmological flow of creations, along with our Lord and God. And there is a way to look at time that says, in a way, we are part creators of this universe. This comes about despite the fact that on some level we seem stuck in the one-way arrow of time. But that may not be completely true. Maybe we can go beyond the apparent flow of time. things we think and do now can apparently affect things in the past as well as things in the future. In fact, there is a simple experiment you can do to prove that part of your subconscious mind does have contact with the future. We'll show that in a time experiment you can do below. If we are creatures that are not totally stuck in a one-way flow of time, perhaps we are more than we seem to be. Perhaps we can be considered as co-creators of the universe if our now has an effect in the past, if we are not completely stuck in this apparent timeline. Joseph Smith explained that at the creation of the world, many great and noble spirit children of God, was that us, participated. So, in what way? Well, one way we could have participated is if our future actions, the future of then, which is our now, help set up things, the world, as it was to become. If we are actualizing the world out of possibilities by becoming the observer of specific events and actions, that would do it. I told you at the beginning of this section that time was hard to comprehend, but stick with me here. One problem that many great thinkers have with the idea that God is all-knowing is that it tends to imply that since everything is known, we are predestined to act as we do. It's there. It's already written. We lose our free agency because God can see everything we do. He has already seen it. And since He created all that He can see, then we are created to do what we do. We are not free. But if we assume that God didn't create everything, but had co-creators help within the framework that He did create, then it becomes possible the co-creators are responsible for their own part of the creation. And if the co-creators are us, then we are responsible for what we do. Hence, we are free, because we are the ones that made us do it. And the way that could work is if each of us set up our own life structure based on what we could see of our future selves. And if our current decisions and actions have an effect on the past version of us, as those past versions of ourselves arrange what would happen in their future, then in effect what we do now is part of the whole creation in the past. We are creating our own little corner of the universe right now by our actions. We freely decide what to do now, and that affects how the universe was set up initially to allow our current actions to come about. We were and currently are now the co-creators of our universe. This arrangement allows complete past knowledge of the future and total free agency at the same time. What we do is created by what we will do by virtue of our action, cause, and reality. Did I mention that time was hard to comprehend? But it is interesting. But back to why study these scientific discoveries of the importance of the initial setup of the physical laws of the universe. It is because with a little insight using our limited minds, we can see how God might perhaps influence the creation of some of the many universes that are possible to become useful universes where life can and will develop. We'll cover that in the creation of other universes in a minute. But back to the future. Understanding time is important for us to be able to understand the nature of the universe. If time doesn't exist, but is in fact an illusion, then that implies that we must exist in the mind of God, and there is no physical reality. But the pantheism idea that everything is God and God is everything is correct. This goes against the teachings of the Church. God is a person, real and separate from us. Therefore, time is not an illusion. Well, maybe in a way, but not entirely. There's something there. The second view of time is that time was created with our universe when everything, including space-time, sprang into existence with a Big Bang. This view is incompatible with church teachings because it doesn't allow for the existence of God previous to the creation. Who created the creation if there was nothing before then? A third view of time is that time always existed, which is compatible with church teachings, as long as we end up using one of the theories that explain that the Big Bang of our universe is only one of many. This allows for a God who existed forever to create his own universe where time and matter is organized from previous pre-existing force fields or membranes, or by budding off of other space-time universes. This fits exactly what Joseph Smith and the Church teaches about the nature of God and the purpose of the universe. It goes against what most every other religion teaches, and against the grain of what most people feel is natural. But understanding time is important. To know that time as we see it in regular life is not as it seems gives us clues as to the role of time in the universe. Why is time necessary? The answer is that without time to separate events, all events would happen together. Without time to separate things, the creation would be one blinding flash of everything at once, nothing after, no developing matter and energies. There has to be time. That separates the different actions. But then the question comes up of how God can be all-knowing and all-powerful if he can't move in time or control time. People wonder. The answer to that seems to involve the interconnectivity of particles and force fields in the universe. New quantum physics experiments provide evidence that elementary particles can be entangled, where doing something to one of the entangled pair causes a change in the other, even if it's hundreds of light years away. Somehow they are instantly in touch with each other. Scientists have now discovered that it is possible to observe the effect in visible matter. They were able to show that a pair of 3-millimeter diamonds shared one vibrational state between them. They are tied together over time and space. Due to the consciousness factor in collapsing probability waves by an observer, it appears that human thoughts are also linked by non-local connections. This implies that what a person chooses to do in one place seems immediately to affect what is true somewhere else in the universe. We live in an interactive, participatory universe. We know that time exists in the 4 dimensions known as space-time. Time will not likely be the same in the other dimensions, such as the spiritual dimensions we suggested above. It may be that it is possible to access different times from the here and now that we are stuck in on this physical plane, perhaps through some of the other dimensions, or spiritually. Perhaps this is why prophets, and indeed all of us, can sometimes seem to touch the future with our minds. It would also explain how God can function in various dimensions to access all time, even though space-time dimensions of the physical world don't allow it. Do you want to do an experiment in time? You can do this experiment on yourself to prove that it is possible for everyone, including yourself, to access the future. I read about this method in a book on time. Here's the basic setup. You can access the future about 4 days into the future through your dreams. Now, psychologists have found that basically our dreams consist of random images or feelings in what are called daily residue. When dreaming, your brain plays a lot of minor random events, something to do with memory processing. And your mind tends to take this daily residue and strings it together in a sequence that we visualize as a dream when we are in our dream phase of sleep. Most of these sequences are not important. It is just your brain shuffling data from the day, and it consolidates memories for long-term storage or deletion. If you record your dreams by writing them down, you will find examples of daily residue when you review the notes on the dreams. Get into the habit of recording your dreams by keeping a notebook beside your bed and programming yourself to wake up when you dream and write down the dream. And also, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is write down your dreams. You will see a lot of images and perhaps some feelings that you recognize as coming from what happened the day or two before you saw them in your dream. Once again, these are just fleeting random images, not important by themselves. Now here's the trick. Apparently our brain also processes future images and feelings too, as it attempts to process information. Somewhere it has picked up fragmentary future events in the form of daily residue. In general, it's nothing interesting. It is the same unimportant daily residue of random images that you get from your regular daily residue stuff. Only it's from the future. It seems that part of our unconscious mind is connected with the future. It appears to connect about 4 days in the future. To discover those parts of your dreams that show the future, write down all your dreams for like 3 weeks. Set the notes aside, don't worry about them. Then after 4 days in the evening, after you've had all your day experiences, get out your dream notes from 4 days before and review those old dreams and see if there are any images that you used in those dreams that seem like something you saw or experienced today. If so, that means you dreamed that little bit of the future 4 days before it happened. Your mind is accessing the future. You're not going to get future day residue every day. And sometimes it is a fuzzy correlation. Not quite the same, it could be, and maybe it isn't. Don't worry about it. No need to try to force the future. In fact, trying too hard usually kills the effect. But if you keep recording your dreams, you will sometimes see clear positive results. It's interesting, but not useful, because any future bits you get is usually just unimportant random images. Soon you will give it up. You can't use it for practical purposes. The author tried this method after reading a book on time and got one clear hit. One night he had a dream about going up a dark stairwell, and ahead of him were 4 or 5 slim, smallish black guys, naked, their little black butts wiggling as they climbed the stairs in a peculiar manner. Now, the author isn't a homosexual in any way, and it wasn't some latent homosexual dream. It was just a strange, unexplainable dream. You know, why on earth did I dream that kind of dream? Well, 4 days later, he was watching a PBS special on pygmy natives in the jungles of Africa, when a scene came up where the pygmy warriors were dancing in the night around a campfire, acting out their hunt or something. And suddenly the author saw the exact same movements as the slim pygmy black guys, and they danced around the fire, and their little black butts were wiggling in the same way. From this part of the film, you couldn't see that they were wearing a leather string thong thing of primitive hunters. Their butts looked naked. It was the image from the 4 days previous. This was a new PBS special shown for the first time that night. and he couldn't have seen it previously. It was interesting, but it was not important.